Well, hey, North City and Discipleship Table participants, Happy New Year. 2021 comes with welcome arms. I know, that's how I feel. There's much to celebrate in this new year, and I'm glad we get a fresh start. I'm proud of our church for focusing on this book, which is Boundaries for Your Soul. We'll be actually talking about what it means to be Spirit-led people this month in our sermons as well. So we'll be focusing on that as we start in our sermon series. And we are on step 3 of the U-turn that concept we've been talking about with Boundaries of Our Soul, and that is inviting Jesus to be near these difficult parts of our soul, these suffering parts of our souls. And I think for me, as I was reflecting on this, this isn't the first time that I've encountered this concept of asking Jesus to be near these suffering parts of me. This isn't a new concept, but I think what takes it from theory to real and transformative is when we take it out of, this cerebral concept of Jesus being near us. But when we think about the actual person of Jesus, and when we think about who Jesus is and who Jesus was in Scripture, how we see him befriending and loving and drawing near different types of people in Scripture, we see him doing that in 3 different ways. We see him first drawing near to the sanctimonious. The author sort of divided up into 3 categories, similar to the managers, firefighters, and the exiles. The sanctimonious are just who they are, just what it sounds like. The ones who think very highly of themselves, the Pharisees, the religious, the ones who have it all right. He interacted frequently with those who mastered the laws and created more, right? And they're the legalists, the judgers, the prideful doers, as this book talks about, the perfectionists, the prima donnas, the people pleasers. Maybe you wouldn't put them in this category, but they're the ones who care about their image, the pushy point makers, the ones who are always right. And the question that I think of is, what does Jesus do? How does he invite them to be near? And he invites them to be near by offering them rest, to stop. I'll just read this quote from the book, that these are the hard-working parts of you that are downright combative at times. And though they're trying to help, and they're trying to maintain your reputation with others and with God, they're fighting to keep your faults and limitations far from you. These parts often believe that they're speaking on behalf of God, when in fact sometimes they are keeping you from establishing a more meaningful relationship with him. And so what Jesus offers, similar to when God creates the world in 6 days, he stops and he rests. And Jesus invites you to rest, invites these parts of you to stop and to be near, to simply be in relationship with him. The second one is straying. There's these straying people in Scripture, these people who are the sinners, the sick. It's not the healthy that need a doctor, it's the sick. These are the people who are rebellious. They're the tax collectors, they're the prodigal sons. They're the parts of us that simply want to numb the pain. They're the firefighters, by all sorts of nasty coping mechanisms. And what Jesus does when you think about, the tax collector, and when you think about the rebellious, he befriends them. He befriends them and he gets to know them, and he wants to spend time with them, and then he offers forgiveness. When I think about the woman coming to wash Jesus' feet, he was in the presence of the sanctimonious, right? All the religious leaders. What does he do? He talks to her. He addresses her. He sees her humanity. He wants to extend relationship to her. And then he offers her forgiveness, and he says, go and sin no more. But he didn't start with that, right? He didn't start with forgiveness. He started with friendship, with relationship. And so the sinful, sort of rebellious parts of us, they need that friendship and forgiveness. The last one, the suffering parts of us, the exiles, the parts of us that are hiding and that the protectors are trying to protect in us. Now this one I was very intrigued with, because I thought, well, what does Jesus do? Of course he loves them, right? I mean, those are the ones he draws near to. That's what I think of when Jesus comes to save us, right? To rescue us. I think of the suffering parts of ourselves, or the suffering people, the ones who are on the fringes of society, but Jesus goes to them. And what the authors point out is when Jesus offers relationship and restoration to these people, he doesn't just do it by healing them immediately. That's what he offers. But first, he seeks to empower them. He says, he offers and asks them, what could you do? He asks something of the people who are trying to heal. He asks them to go to the pool, or to, with the woman who needed to be touched. He says to go and to go see, to be restored to her community. With the general's daughter, Jairus' daughter, he says, go home and see her. Or get up, pick up your mat and walk. These are extensions of confidence, of participation in healing. Not just, I'm going to heal and you don't have any role to play. We have a role to play in our healing. He wants to empower us to be healed. And these suffering parts of ourselves that have been hiding in the corner for many years, potentially, he wants to empower you. He wants to empower those parts of you. He might ask something of you, but not too much. Just enough so that you can participate in your healing. And so when I think about the character of Jesus, and who Jesus is, he's so intentional with each one of these ways that he responds to the defensive, sanctimonious parts of us, the running away from him because you're ashamed of what sin you've participated in, the suffering parts of you that don't know if you can be healed or can, be restored. He responds differently to each of those places. And so when we're in this practice of noticing, starting with noticing and identifying these parts of ourselves, then befriending, and inviting Jesus to be near. It's not enough for us to befriend these parts of us. We need to invite Jesus to be near, the healer, the restorer, the forgiver, the one who offers rest. That's where the healing work happens. And this happens through when we actually create space in our lives to heal. We just finished a podcast series on spiritual disciplines, and it's not doing these things that's going to heal us. It's the person of Jesus that's going to heal us. Even Richard Foster says this: by themselves, spiritual disciplines can do nothing. They can only get us to the place where something can be done. They are by the means by which we place ourselves where God can bless us. Our religious activities, like watching church, participating in church, listening to worship music, reading scripture, journaling, these spiritual disciplines on our own don't change us. They simply create an environment in which growth can occur, where Jesus can enter into that space. And so I hope that you're able to identify these lost parts of you, these hurting parts of you. You can identify the managers and the sanctimonious parts of you if there's a lot of shoulds in your life. You can identify the firefighters or the ones who are running away because of sin as just this drifting sort of daydreaming experience when you're trying to engage in some sort of scripture or worship. Just like a mind is absent during those times. And you can identify an exile by maybe some of the doubt that you're experiencing when you seek to engage with Jesus and engage in these spiritual disciplines or spend time with Jesus. Like, is there just tons of doubt that God even loves you or wants to spend time with you? Those are the ways that you can identify these parts of your soul. And so what our questions for today are, which of these really stand out for you? Is it the sanctimonious, the straying, or the suffering parts of you? And when you picture, and it does take some imagination, right? This doesn't just happen. When you picture Jesus drawing near, how is he doing that? How is he doing that to that part of your soul that seems to be lost, that seems to be fighting, that seems to be telling you it's working hard for you, but it's actually hurting you and hurting others? So what stands out to you in this, as well as what do you picture Jesus doing? Because this is where the work of healing, of hope happens in our lives, when we invite Jesus to be near. And so that's my prayer for each of you as you start this year. This is not easy work, but I pray that you would experience Jesus, his person, his character, the one who came to not condemn, but to save you. So look forward to our discussion tonight.